What's up, friend? Hey, I am Ryan Coral from Studio Sherpas, and this is the Grow Your Video Business podcast, the show created for videographers who want to build a better business, make a bigger impact, and enjoy the journey. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Core Group. On this episode, we talk about time, our most valuable asset that isn't renewable. We also talk about a very important question that you need to ponder. Are you hunting antelope or field mice? I know that sounds weird, but trust me, this is a really important question that we talk about. And then we talk about why you might want to consider building a 7-figure business instead of a 6-figure business. I've polled people in our community, and a lot of people are like, man, if I could just make 6 figures, that would be enough for me. And in this conversation today with Blake, we kind of talk about something a little bit bigger than just 6 figures. And then lastly, the power of having automation and boundaries inside of your business. You're gonna love my guest, Blake Pollino. He is a filmmaker. He's got multiple businesses and an awesome vision for what he wants with his business for his life, not the other way around. Huge news. Where's the echo? You have been waiting for it. A bunch of you are already on the wait list, but wait no more, because tomorrow, registration for the Onward Summit begins. You can get all of the information and register, save your seat for the Onward Summit, which is the in-person event that I'm hosting in Metro Detroit in a little town called Lake Orion at our awesome studio. And it's going to be incredible. You've been hearing me talk about it. You've been hearing other people inside of our community talk about it. Now it's time to lock in your spot. July 27th, which is tomorrow. This podcast comes out on a Monday. Registration opens up on Tuesday. You can lock in your spot. Go to onwardsummit.com. Get your ticket. I will see you in Detroit in October. It's October 3rd through the 6th is when the event is, and it's going to be epic. So looking forward to seeing you. With that, let's jump into this episode of the show. If there was one thing that could have ended my business 17 years ago, it would be because of the numbers. I hate accounting, taxes, W-9s, W-2s, W-40s, spreadsheets, all of that stuff. And I hate it mostly because I'm afraid of it. I'm just not great with numbers. If this sounds familiar, or if you're so new in your business that it's not even on your radar yet, you need Core Group. Core Group can help you create financial systems and tax strategies that you need so you can grow profitably, and they've been doing this for over 20 years. They become an extension of your team so that you can stay in your lane of expertise and then lean on them to help guide you along the way. For me, having a team of experts in my corner to help keep track of our books and just to make sure that we're budgeting for taxes appropriately, to have an actual strategy for our taxes and our accounting is priceless, and it allows me to sleep easier at night knowing that I don't have to be an expert in that arena. If you want to avoid surprises in your video business and you want experienced help building a plan for the future that you want, both professionally and personally, head over to studiosherpas.com/core for more information. And when you're ready to set up a free consult with them, make sure to mention Studio Sherpas for a special discount too. Got your back. Get more out of your accountant. Go to studiosherpas.com/core. What is up, friends? Hey, welcome to this episode of the podcast. I'm Ryan Coral. I think I already did the intro, so I'm not sure why I'm introing myself again. What I'm here to do today is to introduce my guest, Mr. Blake Pollino, who is the founder of BP Media, not to be confused with BP, like the oil company. Are you that, Blake?
Very, very different amounts of revenue between those two businesses. I'd like to take credit for that.
To you.
Yeah, that's what I meant, clearly.
Exactly. Blake, super excited to have you on the show today, man.
Yeah, super excited to be here, man. Appreciate you having me on. So when I first got started, it used to be like back in the day when we were kids, like when you got into a new hobby or whatever, like you were going to get into, you would go like subscribe to a magazine and like just absorb all of that you could. And when I first got started in my video business, your podcast was like one of the first things that I really started consuming. So it's cool to be on here.
I love that. Yeah, that's great. That's so funny. So Blake and I, we actually had the pleasure of hanging out a few weeks ago in Phoenix in the blazing, scorching heat of Phoenix, Arizona at like 115 degrees. I'm surprised that we made it out of there alive.
Yeah, it was a good time. It was the first time you and I had ever met, and it was great circumstances to hang out in 116-degree heat in the desert, and the hottest flights I've ever been on, just like these tin cans roasting on the tarmac, and but we had a good time, man. We should have charged admission to some of those talks that we had just sitting around the Airbnb, and we had some other friends with us, John and Nick from How to Film Weddings, and it was a blast, man. It got deep. That was
oh my gosh, seriously,
it was a good time.
Who knew in a pool, four guys could talk about religion, politics, business, all of the things.
It got really deep, but it was really refreshing. It's always fun to hang out with people who are kind of doing the same thing that you're doing. I mean, a lot of times it feels kind of isolated. You know, even there's big communities of what we do. Just like somebody who knows exactly, what you're going through. So I think that's been really cool to kind of have those friendships and bounce ideas off of. And I think we were sitting around trading like book lists one afternoon on the couch, like of books that we've all enjoyed, and it was crazy how many of them crossed over and just new stuff to get into. It's been really cool. But yeah, it was a good time. Man. I had fun. We need to do that again. I'm pretty sure I gained 15 pounds in 4 days.
Lots of food.
We ate well during that trip. It was fun.
I think the breakfasts are the things that put me over. That was insane.
Yeah.
And then just real quick here, you guys, the craziest part about this whole trip, I think, in my opinion, was we were out and about checking out some just places that would be good for shooting, and we were in this kind of like mountainous area, and it was literally 115 degrees, like the hottest heat that I've ever been in, and it's obviously a dry heat, so there is that, but still 115 degrees is like having a hot air, or what do you call those, a hair dryer in your face. And this woman is running on a trail in the mountain. What the heck?
And it wasn't like 5 o'clock in the morning. It wasn't like 5 o'clock in the morning, or it's not. This was like 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yep.
Like we had just left lunch, and we're like, "Are you okay? Like, is there something wrong with you?
Like,
this is great training."
That was insane. God.
We had just finished eating like cinnamon pancakes or something, cinnamon roll pancakes, and I felt like a very underachieved person at that moment.
Very weak. Yeah. The thing I loved so much about what we were able to do during those, I mean, it really was just like 2.5 days.
Yeah.
Is really like when I started in my business, I was so drawn to, like, I wanted to build a community of filmmakers, and I wanted to like do this together. And what we did is really like that is the quintessential thing that like fires me up, gets me so excited to be in a room or a pool with 3 other guys, with a small group of people, and to really just talk through like the struggles of business. Because some of the things that we talked about were just like, things in our own businesses that were like, man, this is really hard, and I don't really know how to navigate it. And to be able to bounce that off of other people who, have similar businesses, maybe aren't in the same spot or haven't experienced the same things, but there's definitely overlap. And there is this desire for like how we want to grow our business and how we want to move forward. So there is this shared connection, and obviously we're doing similar type work. But to be able to talk with others and to dream with others, and to really just be a sounding board, is so helpful, and it's so healthy, and that's what I love. Like, even in the Facebook community this morning, I was looking at people were just sharing some of their recent wins, and I was getting emotional reading these things. And this is just Facebook. I mean, most of these people I don't know, I've never met in person, but for me, as I'm looking forward to October, where we're hosting the Onward Summit, the next Onward Summit, which is an in-person event, and to give people an opportunity to meet in the flesh other people that are doing similar work, that are trying to grow their video business, that is where I've seen it before, And I've experienced it. I've been intentional in saying, like, I want to connect with other filmmakers, other people that are doing this stuff. It's going to happen again, where people are going to build relationships. They're going to hire for each other for future jobs. They're going to ask hard questions. And I just, it is one of the things that is most nearest and dearest to my hearts to help filmmakers, video business owners know that they're not alone in this work. And that if you're intentional and you're serious, you really can build a tribe of people around you that want to support you, that want to encourage you, and that want to help you in this thing that we're really trying to make our career.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when I look back, and I say that like it's been a long career, I haven't been doing this for a tremendously long time, but some of the most successful moments I've had, or moments that have led to the most success for me in this business, have come from going to workshops. And it's not even necessarily been the content that was taught at those workshops, which is normally great, but it's the relationships that I've made during those have just led to unbelievable things. Like, it's been connections that have started new businesses for me. So I started some of our businesses because of the connections that I made. And it's the community is so great. And it's a really cool trend that's happening with that right now. And it's so very diametrically opposed to what you see in most businesses, where it's very cutthroat and everybody's a competitor, and I want to step on you to succeed, and if I succeed you lose. It's this zero-sum game. But we're in a really cool place, I think, where people are starting to see that the ocean's plenty big for everyone, and we can really help each other and lift each other up. It's a really cool place that we're in. It's not perfect for sure, but it's a really cool place.
Yeah, and that's spot on. The conferences in all the things that I've attended, I now realize that, yes, they can have amazing speakers, and I'm going to take like tons and tons of notes, but it's the hallway moments. It's the breaks in between. It's the evening cocktail hours. It's the meals. It's where you're sitting with a smaller group of people and really just like have an opportunity to share and have an opportunity to hear other people. That's where trust is built, and that's where the deep connections, the real connections, really start to happen. And that stuff is just gold, man. It's so good.
Oh, it is.
We can keep talking about that, but we're kind of far into this episode. Paint us a picture of BP Media. Like, what do you do? How do you spend your time?
Yeah. So I originally got started in video, making extremely violent horror films. I'm just kidding, man. That's
I was like, this is I haven't heard this. I didn't realize.
Yeah, I joke all the time. I want that to be somebody's start, because it's almost always like one of three things. It's like, I started filming weddings, or I started doing video in church, or I went to film school. It's like always one of those three things. I want just one person to be like, yeah, I was just making these like really gory horror films, and that's how I got into video. Yeah. But no, in all seriousness. So I got started late 2017. Like a lot of people in this industry, I started filming weddings. A buddy of mine so I'm two of three of these things. So I started doing videos for churches, and we did this little kids series of videos, episodes. And a guy that I had worked with on that called me, and he's like, hey, what are you doing tomorrow? And I was like, I'm not helping you move, if that's what you're about to ask me.
I don't have a pickup, and I'm not helping you.
Yeah. He's like, no, he said, I want to propose to my girlfriend. Can you film it? And I'm talking like I had gotten into drone stuff, so I had the drones, but I had like GoPros, and I was using my wife's like Rebel like T6 or something, whatever it was, T3, I don't know what it was. And I was like, yeah, I'll do it. So I go and film this downtown, but it was real. It was this real moment, and I put it on Facebook, and it went, I don't know, pseudo viral, and people were messaging me like, hey, can you film my wedding? And it was like, I didn't even know people filmed weddings, but yeah, sure, let's do it. And so I kind of got into that. They had a short engagement, filmed their wedding, and I started Pollino Films, which is our wedding brand that we still run and operate, and kind of went full on into that. I was in corporate America at the time. I was doing marketing and business development for a startup medical company that sold helicopters to hospitals, which was probably one of the cooler jobs I've ever had. It was just a really neat deal. And we just go to different areas and kind of deploy the business there. So my background had been in that. I had been doing business development and marketing in corporate America for a number of different companies for 10 years at that point. And like, that was my career path. Like, I was set in that, like, that's what I was going to do. And I was going to work my way up in a company and just work for a company until I died, I guess. That was the plan. And then this kind of hit me, and I realized I loved it. Like I absolutely loved I loved movies growing up. You know, my brothers and I used to steal my mom's camcorder and make our own versions of Indiana Jones. Really, it was just fake punching each other at the top of the stairs and pretending to roll down the stairs and filming it on this old camera. I think it was mini DV tapes, but God, I wish I could find those. That would be just gold. But they're long lost. But yeah, so I started doing the weddings and got really, really into that. And the business started to grow, and we shot 32 weddings that first year. And then I really started to look at it as the possibility that this could be a real business, much to my wife's dismay. She wanted me to kind of stay in that corporate America. Every 2 weeks you get a paycheck, health insurance, all that kind of stuff. And this was just so much more fulfilling to me. And a year after our first paid wedding at Pollino Films, I went full time in video. And right around that time, I had decided that, I'd spent my career in corporate America in marketing. So I always knew that business was where I wanted to go, and the commercial corporate landscape is ultimately where I wanted to end up. So I grappled with the marketing aspect of Pollino Films for a long time. I'm talking months of trying to decide, and eventually started a separate company called BP Media Group, which is purely video production, commercials, corporate social media campaigns, that type of thing. I just couldn't wrap my head around, potential brides scrolling through our website and seeing commercials or vice versa, right? I couldn't imagine, a corporate client getting on there and having to scroll through all of these weddings and try to figure out if we were the person for them. So I ended up going that route. Check back in with me in a couple of years and we'll see if that was a good decision or not. But it's turned into me, juggling these multiple brands. And there's a lot of cohesiveness, it's shared equipment between the different companies. And then about a year after that, so I did commercial real estate, was one of my first ever jobs. So I had a lot of background in real estate, and I noticed a real change in the tides with real estate marketing. Back when I did it, when you listed a property, you just went out with your camera and you took a picture of it and you listed it online. And now it's people are hiring professional photographers and videographers to go make these video tours and take pictures of all their properties. So it seemed like an easy lane for us to also get into. And then again, I had that same conversation of, oh God, do we want this under BP Media Group? And, our commercial clients have to comb through all this. And we did operate like that for about the first 6 months. And then it's split off into its own company, which is BP Real Estate Photo now, because I'm super creative with the business names, apparently. And so that's where we are now, kind of operating those three businesses. We have 4 employees now. And a handful of contractors and different people that we use. And it's been an absolute wild ride, man.
That's incredible. So you essentially have 3 businesses plus a personal brand that you've recently started. So you've got tons of time on your hand.
Loads of time. Who sleeps, man?
So I'm curious, how, what is the setup for running those 3 businesses? Do you have employees? Do you have some that are just working on, one of the brands, or does anybody or everybody work on all of them? How do you have that set up?
Yeah, it's interesting. So, and I think you and I talked a lot about this when we were in Phoenix. It's this weird place where I spent. So the first year in business, it was almost entirely just the wedding video, but I was working 2 jobs. I still had my 9 to 5. So, I was working 80 hours a week, 90 hours a week to kind of build this thing. The problem was when I left my corporate job, I never stopped that. So I just continued this kind of burnout inducing amount of work. I pulled more all-nighters in the last 3 years than my entire life combined, just trying to keep up with everything. And I was kind of telling myself this lie that, eventually I'll get to a point where, I can hire more people or I can manage more and I'll be able to be more hands off with the company. And kind of the thing that I think a lot of people in our industry and just in entrepreneurship don't really understand is that early on you are spending your time to make money, right? And the problem that a lot of us had, and I had this problem, is flipping this switch where you're starting to be successful and you have to flip this toggle where you start to spend money to make time, because the time's not renewable, right? Early on, I'm not a huge hustle culture fan. I think it's kind of cancerous, honestly, to our society. But, there's sacrifices you have to make to build something. And that was the hard part, was finding that switch, right? To switch to where, okay, now we're in a place, let's spend money to make time. So a lot of that's come through automation for me. So like we'll take the BP real estate photo company, for example. So we have 2 photographers that work exclusively for that brand, for that company. And then myself as well, I'll go out and still shoot some, especially if video's involved. And that's a pretty much entirely automated system. So when a client, they're 99% of our clients are realtors there. When they go in and they can book the entire process online, it's an automated scheduling process. They can see the schedule that's available to them. They pick that. It assigns that system to the 2 photographers. They pick that based on availability. And then we started outsourcing. So we outsource our edits on that. So when those 2 photographers are done for the day, they upload all of their raw images to Dropbox. And our editors, who are actually overseas, they're just waking up for the day. They're on the other side of the planet, and so when it's their time to wake up, they start editing those. So when we wake up in the morning, those photos are already edited, and then we just send those, and that's another automated process as well. And it just sends those right to the client. So it's been a learning process of that, and it's this weird balance of when I was in corporate America, I wanted to be this, I don't know, titan of industry, right? And be a CEO or a president of a company. And it's hard to take that hat off, or those glasses off of seeing it that way when you're working in companies or industries that we're in now, where it's very easy to have a lifestyle business. So like when we look at a lot of our competitors, they have these lifestyle businesses where they're making good money, and it's just enough to pay them, a good living, and that's it, right? So there's not a lot of scalability beyond that. So it's been kind of finding the balance between those, and then really just trying to create as automated a process as we want. But, to be honest, and you and I talked about this a lot when I was in Phoenix, that's still a place that I struggle with even today, to be candid, is do I want to create this company that has a lot of employees, or do I want to keep it, really dialed back and simple, and outsource as much as possible? And so that's kind of the place that we're in right now, and it's been interesting.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a lot, man. It's so as far as like what is the future? I mean, like when you look at these businesses, what's most profitable? Where do you see things being in the next couple of years, like business wise, and your role in what you're doing?
Yeah, it's been interesting, and I like the variety of having the multiple businesses. It's kind of an ADHD thing, I guess. It's nice to be able to like really dive in and work on one, and then if you kind of, I don't want to get bored of that, but you want to come up with something cool for this one, and I love that aspect of it. I love, and they're all very, very closely related. We were using literally the same equipment majority of the time for everything, and a lot of the same software, and even our employees are kind of cross-trained on different things, and they do different parts of the business. And so I like that aspect of it, but it's really been kind of sitting down and figuring out what part of it, not only I enjoy the most, but I've been on a real kick here in the last year. I heard it on a podcast, or I read it somewhere, but I'm not sure where it was. I can't remember. I'll have to go back and find it. But so I have 2 young kids, so 2 little ones. They're 7 and will be 5 next month. And I've really prioritized my time with the kids. So I'm really looking at it through that lens, and what of these businesses allow me to separate myself from it the most. So like take the real estate business, where I'm not really super active in that. I can kind of step away from that. We have the employees, we have the automated system. And I read that statistic that it's like 91% of the total time that you're going to spend with your children happens between birth and the age of 12. Like 91%, like of all the time that you're going to spend with them in their entire life happens before they're 12. And when I read that, I was like, it was like a gut punch. I was like, that's really shocking to me. Yeah. And I talked about the time a second ago, time not being a renewable asset. So that's where it's all kind of going for me. I always see a world where we film weddings. It's a really, a fun industry to be in. I love the industry. I love doing it. So we've kind of scaled that back to a point where we just kind of have raised our prices, and we'll shoot a limited number of them. We've got to kind of be jazzed to shoot it for it to make sense for us. And I think we'll always have that. But it's really just kind of going after more projects that we're interested in, and then just creating stuff that I'm interested in. It's kind of gotten to this cool place where it's all kind of running smoothly, and I can kind of focus on what is fun to me and kind of spend time with the kids as much as possible. Maybe when they turn 12 and that 91% runs up, then I'll be like, okay, maybe it's time to do something different or dive into it a little bit more. But that's what's really important to me is just making stuff that I really want to make, and then having as much time as possible to spend with the kids.
Yeah, dude, that's a eye opener. My 14-year-old just got a job last weekend.
Yeah.
And so he worked Saturday. He got the job on Friday, so his first day was Saturday, and then he worked on Sunday, and both in the evenings. And on Saturday afternoon, we're like, "Hey, what are we gonna do tonight?" And we're like, "Oh wait, Evan's not gonna be here."
Oh.
And it was just like, I was like, oh man, I started working when I was 14, and I remember I wanted to work as much as I could when I was 14. I was trying to save up I wanted to buy a bass guitar, and I had to buy fast food and the necessities for high school. Yeah. So it just made me think like, wow, it's the end of an era, kind of, for our family.
That's terrifying for me. Like I'm so. We take our youngest to kindergarten here in a couple of weeks. It'll be her first day of school, and I'm like, I'm gonna be a mess. Like I'm gonna be totally. I'm gonna be a wreck. So it's hard. I mean, and I texted you the other day. I had listened to the Greg McEwen episode that you had done with him, and I was just like, God, I was about to break down. Like you were talking about your priorities and stuff with the kids, and his book Essentialism. That's a lot to what led me to kind of going down that path of like, man, I love this. I love creating businesses. Like I've probably got 5 or 6 on the burner right now, like ready to go if I want to go do another startup or do something else. But it's like, this is what's important to me. And that's kind of where I prioritize it. And so it's a cool place. I like making the stuff that we like to make. And it's, I get to take my kids to school every day. And a lot of days pick them up from school. And that's what's important to me. And I'm trying to shape everything around that and build everything around that. So,
my daughter, she's 11. I'm like, oh man, all right. So, Blake
just
said
one more
year, barely. She's going into middle school, and all that's going to change. So I think that's so good for us to reflect on and think about, because really, like, I have a strong desire for my business to be so successful and for as much of it to be automated, and so that I can be hands off. But in the meantime, it means like my hands are still on parts of it. And I've got all the time in the world after my kids are, in school full time, don't need or want me as much as, they did when they were, less than 12 years old. And so there is this balance of like, working smarter, not harder, really trying to say like, well, what are my values? And, it was 2 summers ago that I had stopped working on Fridays, and I did that consistently until the pandemic happened. And then I said, oh crud, I've got a lot of work to do to get my businesses in a spot where they are running and they're healthy. And so I'm kind of back in this, like, okay, I'm getting ready to take Fridays off again, and I'm super excited about it, but things always pop up, and it's always like, okay, well, maybe next month is when I'm going to start that. And we're already, summer's almost over, and I'm like, oh man, like, have I made the best use of my time? I will say so far, yes, because I did take 3 weeks of vacation. So
you just took some serious vacations. Yeah, I'm jealous.
I did get lots of time with the family, but 6 months can go by, and I might be saying the same thing of like, wow, I haven't made any extra time to try to be with my family, be with my wife, go on date. We went on a date last night, but it's hard. Like if you don't set intentions and really think through like, what do you want and what's necessary? Because if you said, hey, I'm only going to work 4 days a week, you would get the most important things done in 4 days. If you have 5 days, it's like, okay, like I'll spread this out over 5 days. But if you challenge yourself to say, I'm going to do the things I have to do in these 4 days, you'll get those things done. You'll find a way, especially if you know that the result of doing that is you win some time. Like, and that's one of the most precious resources that we have access to.
Yeah, we can't make more of it. And it's kind of, there's this trend that's been going around, I guess kind of since 4 Hour Workweek book came out, where these people creating this lifestyle creation thing where you look at this system where we work all of our lives and then maybe we have 15 years at the end or 10 whatever 20 years at the end where most of our health is gone but we have more time and there are a lot of people that are kind of flipping that on its head, right? So like, let me take the best years of my life right now. And I really look at that through the lens of being a parent, where it's like, I know that as soon as they get into middle school and the high school and we can do the best we can as family to spend as much time to kind of buck that trend, right? And do better than the 9% that's left or whatever it is. But the reality of it is the majority of that time you're going to get with your kids is right now. So that's kind of, and I like what you said. It's like, man, when they get busy with school and extracurricular activities and work, it's like, then I can really, spend some time and get into that. And it's a hard thing because I think the personality type being entrepreneurial and being a business owner is this very much this like conqueror mindset of like, I want to go out and win this and conquer this and do this. And it's very counterintuitive to that. So I still struggle with that. I haven't, I think you're definitely way farther down that path than I've come. I'm still working Fridays and Saturdays and some Sundays. And, it's still trying to be a balance, but yeah, I think that's a really important priority.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. I mean, even when we were doing weddings, it was the same thing for me. And when I first started doing weddings, and then we had Evan, our first kid, and who's now 14, so I'm dating myself. And then Andrea is like, man, how long? Like there was multiple summers where I was not available for most of the summer. When our friends were available to hang out on the weekends. And I think it's so important. And obviously, if you have a job that's requiring you to work on Saturdays, then you have to work on them, but also like take hold of your stinking schedule and your calendar. Look at it and just say like, man, if I'm going to work a Saturday, maybe I can take Monday off, or maybe I could take Friday off or something like that. And we are the ones who make ourselves available. And I was giving a couple of you guys a hard time when we were hanging out because people were responding to emails and like actually working. And I'm like, man, that's so interesting. Yep. Like, when do you turn it off? Like, and so I think that's a challenge for all of us because we want to book more gigs and we want to make sure that our business is healthy and that's good. But if we're not healthy, if we're not doing the things in our own lives that are making us healthy. I think about Steve Jobs, and I remember when I first started my business, I'm like, oh man, Steve Jobs, I want to be, like that. And then come to find out, like, wow, he was like a terrible parent and terrible
the most miserable person, and,
miserable.
Not a great guy.
Not a great guy. I'm like, oh, okay, wait. So can I have both? And the answer for me, the way that I'm built and wired, I can't have both. It's like I've got to.
Yeah.
Being a good enough business owner that's fine. But I really want to be a good dad, and I really want to be a good husband, and I really want to be a good friend. So how, what is good enough, and how available do I need to be to my clients? Am I available to my clients as I am to my friends or my family? Like those are some hard questions to face because a lot of times for most of us, and I've been there, and I think I still wrestle through some of that. It's like tough to see what the reality is, but it's up to us. We are the ones who can change that. We're the ones who can say to our clients, I'm actually not available on Fridays, or I don't text after normal working hours, or to create some boundaries and some expectations with our clients. But if we're answering texts or emailing, at 8 or 9 p.m. at night, then our clients feel like, oh, I could call him because he's responding. And but I want that time for me, the way that I'm trying to build my life. I want that to be sacred time. I don't want to be checking my email. I definitely don't want to be responding to clients. I want to be available, to the people that, are in my living room or, out at the pool or whatever.
Present.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it kind of goes to the future of what I'm kind of trying to create now is I've jumped into the education space a little bit, which is something that I was super afraid to do. So some mutual friends of ours, John Bunn and Nick Miller at How to Film Weddings, I started editing their podcast when they first started that. And I was only like a year into the business at the time, and kind of saw all of that go on. And to kind of go back to what you were saying about us being able to create this lifestyle, like at first off, I thought you had been like, my wife had been texting me like, hey, bring this up on the podcast. Like she says that all the time, like you own the business, like you can control when this happens. Yeah. And a lot of it is because the nature of the business that we're in, a lot of what we do is very hand to mouth, right? So like weddings, for example, like you go, you book the wedding, you shoot the wedding, you edit the wedding, you deliver it. That's it. For the most part, that's a one and done customer. I mean, you can have some repeats, some divorces, whatever, but it's all very in the commercial world, even more so. It's just like these meetings, and then we create these proposals, and then we're pre-production, post-production, and then you start all over again. And because of that, it does require us to be super hands-on. So I look at kind of the future as creating more space for myself through things, and I hate the trend of passive income, right? Like, oh, let's talk about passive income. That's like second only behind the word entrepreneur, that just like kind of rubs me the wrong way when we say it, but it's true. And so that's kind of where I've jumped into the educational space, just because very early on I started to notice that it's there's a big struggle in the creative industry, because the reality is we're artists, right? We want to create something and we want to show this art. But whether we like it or not, we're also business people. We have to run these businesses. And I think a lot of us in the industry struggle with doing both of those things. And you see people all the time who are kind of one or the other. Like it's hard to be good at both. Like you're either a really, really good artist, but not so great on the business side. And so you just try to like, okay, well, making more money solves everything, right? If we can just, do a lot, then everything else takes care of itself. Or you have people who are like really, really good at the business side and still good at the art stuff. And, but they favor that. And it seems to be that like most people end up in one camp or the other. It's like, okay, well, my work's not great, but I'm good at the business, or I'm good at the marketing, or my work is fantastic, but I'm not great at the marketing. And, that's kind of the future that I've wanted to pursue and kind of go into. And it's a scary thing. I mean, like you talk about imposter syndrome times 1,000, right? To kind of get into that. But, creating forms of income that are a little bit more passive and a little bit less hand to mouth, I think are going to be huge. So a lot of that's kind of evolved on the BP Media Group side. So we do commercial video production. We have some really great commercial clients that we work with, but it's also been getting into the education space. So we do a ton of podcast creation. So we produce and edit 13 podcasts every single week. And that's been a little bit more of kind of a passive thing. So that's another one where we've been able to hire on people who are outsourced to a lot of that business and kind of work it through that. And I think that's the direction that I want to head, just to kind of give myself some more time and free up that life.
Yeah. That's. Oh man, it's striking all the chords.
Yeah, right.
I think it is. I talked about this in the last episode that I recorded. Passive income or automatic income or whatever, having different things. Not putting all your eggs in one basket and all of those things. I think as you're building out a business plan, you're thinking about what do I want my life to look like. One of the nice things about doing corporate work over wedding stuff is that there is opportunity. Like if you invest time with somebody, there's this one big opportunity, and so you pitch that, you land that job or whatever. Most businesses could definitely use a lot more than just one video, right?
Exactly.
So there's a lot of opportunities or potential opportunities that if you are smart about it, you can become an asset for them. And then also, like, one of the best things that I discovered kind of accidentally when I first started my corporate brand, because, we had shot hundreds and hundreds of weddings, and most, sometimes we would get lucky and they'd have like multiple kids and would say like, oh yeah, come back. And so the time we were investing in those families paid off like, 2 or 3 times because of doing multiple things but that wasn't everybody. Most people were like, oh, you guys are wedding filmmakers, so that's what you do. We had a bride of ours that worked at a PR firm, and I had sent out our monthly newsletter and just said, hey, guess what? We just started our corporate video brand. If you need video for your business, please contact us. And she emailed right away. I was like, oh my gosh, I never even thought, I had done her wedding, I don't know, 8 or 9 years ago. It was like the first year I was doing weddings. I had filmed her wedding. And she's like, we just got out of a meeting. We said we need video. And so she works at this PR agency, and a PR agency, they're what's considered a channel partner, where they have a bunch of clients, right? It's not the PR firm that's hiring us to do video for them. They're hiring us, or their clients are hiring us to do video for their clients. So, you know, at the time, I don't know how many clients they had, 8, 10, 15 clients. So there's an opportunity that if we build a relationship with a channel partner, like an agency, that we're going to get access to all of the people that need video work there. And since then, we have done with this client, I mean, most recently we booked like a $60,000 job for one of their clients. And so with this same client from 2012, we've made hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars with a channel partner. So those investments, it's not, you know, it's not passive, but you're not actively, you know, trying to sell, trying to find a new client. There are a lot of opportunities within, you know, one client. So that's some of the, you know, work smarter, not harder stuff that I've, like I said, accidentally figured out, like, oh, this is actually better than just trying to find one client that's going to hire us and we deliver, and then we find another client.
And you have
that
to do a
hires
new
us.
sales cycle every single time with, you know, with those clients. Yeah. It makes a big difference. And when we break it down, and I love looking at the numbers, and it's one of my favorite things to do. But so for us, we fall almost exactly on that 80-20 rule with our commercial business, where 80% of our revenue comes from 20% of our customers on that side of it. And that's just like you said, like when you can go in and show value to those, to them, I mean, they're just going to keep using you. And it just opens up the opportunity for more trust, which is bigger projects and bigger budgets. And it's a lot easier than, you know, an inquiry with somebody that you've never met in your entire life and knows nothing about you, you know nothing about them, and you've got to start that whole cycle and then start that all over again. And it's not to say there's anything bad about that. I mean, it's still a great way to make money. And like I said, well, I think we'll always do the weddings and things like that. But it's probably one of our favorite things about what we do, is just creating those relationships. So we have a really big regional grocery chain that we do all of the video production work for. And I somehow made it this far into video production without owning a macro lens. Like we had just never done macro work before. And I wanted one, and I was like, I didn't really have any jobs that like it's like super called for, but I was like, I'm going to get one. So I ordered one of the, you know, the probe ones, the real cool looking alien lenses. And I called up our contact and I was like, hey, just got this new technology. I was like, let's put it to use. And I was like, so, and then right after that, just because we had built trust with them and done a lot of work with them, like these boxes of stuff just start showing up at the office, like coffee and the new like beer products and stuff that they're selling. Like, okay, let's make some product videos about this, and we're billing for that. Like we're getting paid for that. But it's, you know, relationships that we have where they trust us, and it's just we can do that. We can go buy a lens that is just cool, and we kind of just wanted to play with, but and then turn it into a way that makes money. But yeah, it's definitely my favorite part of what we do is working with those relationships and building that trust, and then that's what lets us do the fun stuff, like what we want. And when I first got into the business, I was like, I'm never going to do we're stacking them deep and selling them cheap car commercials. And like, I'm from East Texas, by the way. That's so it's I don't know if you guys get a lot of those up in your area, but a guy in the big cowboy hat and really cheesy car commercials. And I was like, I don't ever want to do that. I was like, I want to make stuff that's meaningful and fun. And it's not to say we stuck to that, because we definitely made some videos where we're just like, oh my gosh, this is like, what are we doing here? Like, this is paying the bills, purely paying the bills. But because of those relationships, it's enabled us to get more creative and do more of the fun stuff that we want to do, instead of the just like mind numbing, oh my gosh, why are we here kind of videos. But yeah, it's a really cool point. I love that aspect of it.
Yeah, I was doing math. I was meeting with our new marketing person the other day, and we started talking about agencies, and I was like, man, if we found 3 new agency clients, new partners, we would almost double our revenue. Like, oh yeah. And so breaking that down, it's like 3. It's just 3. Like if that's all we did. So over the course of a year, if I found 3 people, 3 channel partners, it would make a huge impact in our business. So, you know, when you're kind of breaking down, like, well, how many clients do I need and how much I need to charge and all this stuff, you know, channel partners, you don't need nearly as many clients. You don't need nearly as many of those. So that was a fun kind of like, just working through the numbers, realizing that how hard could it be to connect with 3 other agencies that need similar type work to our one PR firm client, and it can't be that hard. So that's what we're moving toward.
Yeah, and a lot of times when
sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. And a lot of times when you look at it like from an energy level, there was regardless of how you feel about politics, but with the Newt Gingrich campaign, we're going to get it. Who did you vote for? No, when the Newt Gingrich campaign, I guess it was way back in the day. But they used to have this theory that they would operate on, and it was this analogy of a lion hunting, right? So it was, the question is like, are you hunting for field mice or are you hunting for antelope? So a lot of times it would require the same amount of energy for a lion to go out and hunt. And the energy required for a lion to catch a field mouse, it's just, there's not a net gain there, right? Yeah, so you're going to burn more calories than it takes than you're going to consume when you catch that. But, conversely, spending probably a little bit more energy. Sometimes some arguments can be said the same amount of energy to catch an antelope, and like you're fed for a long time. So when we look at clients and we look at our client list and new client acquisition, it's a lot of that same thing. The same effort that we would have put into going out and getting these, mid-level or small video clients, going after some of our bigger clients has been the same level of effort. So we're a lot of times putting in the same amount of energy as we would to go after the stacking them deep and selling them cheap car commercials. No offense to anybody who does car commercials. Like that's not, and we're talking dealership commercials, not like big car brands, but no offense to anybody who does that. But that's always just been my analogy. But the same amount of energy that we would put into doing that, we go after, agency. Like, so marketing agencies have been some of our best clients and our best relationships, because it just creates this exponential growth, right? Where you can, for that same level of energy, get so much more sustenance out of that. So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
no, dude, cool. I think that is an incredible analogy. I think that's super powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I lost my train of thought. I wanted to say one more thing about that. Spending all that time. Yeah, whatever. I'm going to move on. Well, we're winding down here. I don't want to be done, but we're real close. You had mentioned one thing in our pre-show notes here, diversifying your business without buying any new gear. And I was just curious, what the heck does that mean?
Yeah, I love to talk about this. So we run the 3 businesses, so the real estate photo, the wedding photo, and the video production company. Early on in the game, we were running all 3 of those companies without me purchasing anything different. So I obviously got started in the weddings, but for a long time, and we've changed now. We've invested in better gear and things like that. But we were running 3 6-figure creative video, photo companies, whatever you want to call them, without having to go out and purchase anything specific for that. So like when you look at being in business, I have a friend who has a creative, like a graphic design print shop company. And anytime they want to expand into another area of business, so like if they make t-shirts, if they want to get into laser etching, it's a 6-figure machine they have to go buy and do that. And it's the blessing and the curse of our industry, the curse being that it makes our industry wildly competitive, the blessing that the barrier of entry is so low to get into whatever it is that you want to do within, our little area, our little niche. So when we started thinking about commercial, like that was turnkey, right? So all that was creating a new website, creating new social media, creating new branding. But we were doing that. And anybody who is listening to this, who is currently just doing weddings, if that's kind of your thing, I joke with people all the time. I haven't met anybody in the video industry who is not already secretly planning, whether they'll admit it to themselves or not, to get into commercial work or create a YouTube channel. Like it's what everybody, if you're all honest with ourselves, we all think in the back of our head, like, I could do the YouTube thing. I got the gear. I got, I'm creative. I can make this happen. Sorry, that was a weird side note, but we have the equipment, and I would charge that anybody who's doing any of those 3. So if you're doing just weddings, if you're doing just commercial, if you're doing just narrative work, if you're doing just real estate photography and video, you already have what it takes to expand into another area. And that was wildly beneficial for us in 2020 when everything went crazy and, weddings were, we lost $40,000 in 24 hours in bookings. And, everybody's like, oh, they rescheduled to 2021. You'll get it. It's like, yeah, but I don't get it now. Like it's, I'm not going to get it. And even next year, now it's just taking up a spot where I should have raised my prices. And having the diversification, having the multiple businesses in 2020 was still a fantastic year for us. But I had a lot of friends in the industry who were just doing weddings and were just kind of like crying in their cereal. Like, what are we going to do? And it was a really difficult time. And having those, the diversification was hugely important, but it's also really important for the creativity of what we do, right? Like it's really nice that you see a lot of people burn out in our industry, in whatever area of the industry that you're in. So if you're in weddings or if you're in commercial or whatever it is, having that also is super refreshing. So to be able to go into the other tangent of the business to feed your creativity is really, 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 really nice to do. But yeah, it's an interesting challenge to people to just kind of like look at your gear kit and like look at what you can do with what you have. And a lot of times when we look at our P&Ls and we look at our revenue every year, it's, if you take, going back to this lion, field mice, antelope analogy, put that same amount of effort into maybe branching out into something that you're not already doing, could pay back huge dividends over just what may be a marginal increase in just trying to be better at what you're doing now. So I give the example of like buying a lens, for example. So like if you've got a lens that's a, f2.8 lens and it works really, really great for you, going out and spending $3,000 on a lens that's an f1.8, you're not going to see a huge difference in your business. Now, to be fair, these are all little pieces of the puzzle that make up a higher quality of work that you can charge more for. And I get that. And that's all good and fine. But branching out and offering or doing something that you're not currently doing is a lot of times a faster way to grow your bottom line and grow your revenue and create security. I'm kind of an outlier in that. I mean, I think there's definitely something to be said for people who are like, hey, we focus on one thing and we want to be good at one thing, and that's great. And that works great for some people. But I think for a lot of us, especially when you're first starting out, it gives you a really good sense of like what you're good at, like what you like what part of this business you're interested in. Like I've watched so many people, just even in the short time that I've done it, churn and burn through the wedding industry and just like completely burn out and never want to do that again because maybe it wasn't what was right from them in the first place. But you think I've got a camera and I can go do this, and I think it's a really great exercise for people to do is look at what you have and look at ways that you can expand that without even having to go out and purchase new equipment. As fun as that is, I'm a gear junkie and I get that. I love it, but I love going out and buying a new drone or whatever. But it's looking at your business through that lens is, no pun intended, a really good way to do it.
Yeah, no, that's sage advice right there for a guy who's only been in the industry for 4 years.
Yeah.
I early on, same thing. Like, once I had a camera, it was like, okay, like what's the next thing? I need good camera, I need good lights, I need good microphones. And it was just a matter of like expanding our capabilities and giving clients other opportunities to say like, oh, you guys, you can shoot good looking interviews. Great, cool. Like, let's do that. But I couldn't shoot good looking interviews until I got a good light kit.
Yep.
And I could have gotten the mid-grade one or the really expensive like Kino Flows. And I chose the mid-grade because I'm like, I don't know if the client is going to notice. I'll feel cooler and better. And if an agency hires us, it's going to look, they're going to be like, ooh, yeah, cool, Kinos. But like, really at the end of the day, if I can get what I need with the mid-grade or even the sub-mid-grade, like, that's where I'm at right now, because I also need to buy a drone and I've got to buy this and this so that I can offer all these different things. It's what is the return on the investment? If you're looking at a 2.8 versus a 1.8 lens, it's like, man, the 1.8 would be so much cooler, but is a client going to pay $1,000 difference for a 1.8 versus a 2.8? Probably not. And yeah, granted, if you're doing 10 or 20 jobs with that lens, over the course of those 10 or 20 jobs, it will pay for itself.
Sure.
But maybe there's something else that you could get that you could offer to a different client or upsell to that client to say like, oh, wow, we didn't even know you did drone. You just bought a drone. Yeah, well, we just bought a drone because we didn't spend the extra $1,000 on this massive lens. So now you've got something else that you can offer. So that's a much better return on your investment.
Yep, absolutely. And I'm also 100% hyper aware that like 15 minutes ago, I just said that we bought a macro lens just because I wanted to, and it was fun. So I understand I understand the levels of that. But yeah, I mean, when we first started like in the real estate, I kid you not, our first full year of real estate was on a $150 Magic SLR wide angle lens that we used as like our back angle on weddings. And we did six figures with the $150 lens. Like it's ridiculous what you can actually do when you just spread everything around and look at it analytically.
Love it. Blake, this is super fun. How can people check out, where can they find out your YouTube and follow the work and stuff that you've got?
Yeah. So I, like I said, everybody in this industry secretly, whether they admit it or not, wants to jump on YouTube. So I did. So you can find me on YouTube. It's just youtube.com /Blake Pollino. And it's got some really cool information there, some new stuff rolling out, just exclusively about what we've talked about, creative entrepreneurship. I mean, excuse me, I definitely wanted to jump into the gear stuff and do gear reviews and all that stuff that everybody else does, but it was something in the industry that I had not seen, like a gap in the industry. I just hadn't seen a lot of people talking about creative entrepreneurship and how to be a great artist, but also run a really good business and do both simultaneously and being able to succeed at both. So yeah, you can find me on YouTube, Blake Pollino, on Instagram at Blake Pollino, basically at Blake Pollino on everything, Facebook, all that good stuff.
Love it. All right, my friend. Well, how do you want to leave us today?
I wish I would have prepped some questions for you. This is how I want to leave. I want one more thing before we go. I realize we've just talked for an hour, but you gave me some really, really, really good advice. You recommended a fantastic book for me to me that I had just started, and it's this ideology. And I talk about this all the time, but there are a million books, a million podcasts, a million courses, YouTube channels, whatever, that will teach you how to make six figures, right? There's virtually nothing out there that will teach you what to do once you get there. Like everybody wants to teach you how to be successful in this, but once you reach that level and you start to have some success, and what do you do then? Like what happens now, right? Then you have opportunities, then you have stuff that you have to say no to. So that book I've just started it. It's been on the list. Fantastic book. It's from six figures to seven figures, going from six figures to seven figures. It's the name of the title of the book. And I can't remember the author offhand, but,
Austin Netzley.
So far, fantastic recommendation. So just a really cool resource. I want to leave people with that, really cool, resource that you've given me. So looking forward to jumping into more of that. But thanks so much for having me on, man. Like I said, I love chatting. I know I could chat about this for hours. It's just a fun thing to talk about. But man, I appreciate you having me on and letting me gab for a little bit.
Yeah, I love it. Really, really great advice. For those interested, Austin is going to be on the podcast, I think in a month or so, maybe a little over a month, author of From Six to Seven Figures. And the thing I love about that book is there's so many things in there, ways to automate your business and just ways to think differently. And a lot of people might be like, I don't need to make seven figures. And that's not what it's about. Just like Tim Ferriss, the 4-hour work week, it's not about like trying to only work 4 hours. It's like, what are you wasting your time on? How can you zero in on the things that are the most important? So maybe you don't want to make $1 million, and that's fine. But the heart of the things that are inside of that book, it's really gold in really getting you focused on the 20% in your business that you should be versus, all of the other things. So thanks for bringing that up, Blake. And this is super fun. Thank you for being here. You're a stud. I love the success that you've had, and excited for your YouTube channel to explode after everybody from this episode goes and subscribes to your channel, man. As they should. The Grow Your Video Business channel too. There's no shame in my game. But appreciate you, buddy. And we'll get together sometime, maybe in Phoenix.
Yeah, looking forward to
super-
roasting in Phoenix again and eating our weight in cinnamon roll pancakes.
Take care, my friend.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Hey, if this show has been good for you, if it's been helpful, if you've enjoyed it, please share it. Let somebody know about it. I would greatly appreciate that. And remember, the video version of this show, if you're not watching me right now, it can be watched on our YouTube channel. And I would love for you to comment about this episode in particular. I'd love to know your thoughts, in particularly, it's such a hard word, right? The conversation about time. Do you need to set aside some time to get clear on what you want your life to look like? When you want to work, when you want to stop working, to help you create clear expectations so that you can follow those expectations and so that your clients will follow those too. As always, thank you so much for listening. Thanks for your notes, your messages, your comments. If you're not inside of the Facebook group, get in there. Just search Grow Your Video Business on Facebook and come on into our little corner of the world. And lastly, don't forget, tomorrow is a big day, July 27th. It's when you can lock in your spot for the Onward Summit. Come hang out with 49 other filmmakers, videographers from all over the country and kind of the world, because last time we did this event, we had people from even outside of the United States, if you can believe that. So come connect, network, and grow with other video business owners. And you get to hang out with me. I mean, seriously, like I'm like a I don't know how to describe it. What you see is what you get, right? I don't know. Okay, I digress. I would love to see you. I'd love to meet you. I'd love to give you a hug. So come on. Don't be scared. The water's fine up here. Mostly around here. Go to onwardsummit.com. You can register, save your seat, and when we hit capacity, that's it. We're capping it. We want to keep it small, intimate, so that everybody can kind of get to know each other and connect. It is going to be spectacular. So that's all I've got for now. Don't hesitate to reach out if you need anything. My email is ryan@studiosherpas.com. And with that, onward and upward, my friend. I'll talk to you real soon. See ya.